Hi, so I've been playing Beat Saber casually for about a year now. I've learned a lot of stuff that I wish I had known earlier, so in this video I will be compiling everything I've learned that's helped me to greatly improve my skill and create small breakthroughs in my plateaus. Segment 1. How to hold your controllers and how to swing properly. In order to understand anything in this video, you will need to change the way you hold your controller. Instead of holding it thumb up, you will need to rotate so the back of your hand faces up instead. Most maps are made for this way of playing, as it drastically improves your mobility and accuracy. You are able to use your wrist for faster sections without using your whole arm, which saves on stamina. This is very important. Use more wrist for speed, less wrist for slower sections. Segment 2. Beat Saber Scoring System. One thing you need in Beat Saber is to first understand how scoring works. You are graded on two things: how much you swing before and after hitting a note, which is worth 70 and 30 points respectively, and how close you are to the center of the note, which rewards you up to 15 points. In Beat Saber, you want to keep every swing at around 100 degrees up and down. Try not to swing higher or lower, as it just wastes energy, accuracy, and speed. Keep this in mind. If you find you swing too much, you can adjust by thinking of the angle as being smaller. For me, I swing way too much, so I have to think of an angle of 70 degrees to avoid that. You may have to think of more if you are underswinging, but that is less common. Segment 3. Saber Settings. Part 1. Stabilizing the base of the saber. In Beat Saber, you don't often have full vision of your sabers at all time, unless you're like a Valve Index player. So most top players will opt to keep their sabers in as much of a predictable spot as they can. The first step towards this would be to stabilize the base of your saber. This step ensures that your sabers are set up at your wrist's point of rotation at all times. This helps greatly with saber control and stability, as well as keeping your saber in a predictable and static spot. In order to set the base of your saber to your wrist's point of rotation, you will need to mess with your saber offsets located in settings and controllers. First, start by positioning your saber of choice in front of you with your palm facing away. Now wave your wrist side to side while adjusting the x-axis, which may be the y-axis depending on your grip. You will also have to adjust the z-axis to ensure the base of your saber is located at your wrist's point of rotation. Keep adjusting your saber to the base of your saber is steady when you wave your wrist and while your palm is facing away. Now turn your hand 90 degrees so that your thumb now points inwards. Swing your saber up and down and adjust your saber settings until the base of your saber is once again static. Segment 4. Saber Settings Part 2. Fixing the angle of which the saber comes out of your hand. For the majority of players, the default angle your sabers come out will not be optimal. To fix this, we can do a simple calibration step. First, grab your controller and point your arm and hand up with an emphasis on your index finger knuckle. This is your natural sense of up, which will help us know where to point your sabers to increase predictability and comfortability. You essentially want your sabers to point up when your hand is also pointing up. Only worry about getting it to point up when your palm is facing out for now. We will discuss the rest later. Tweak your rotation settings so that when your hand is pointing up, your saber is also pointing up. The saber settings we set before will be offset and somewhat broken now. You will need to fix those. Luckily, you've only adjusted rotation on one axis. You should only need to adjust the position on one axis, which makes things easier. Segment 5. Download a custom leaderboard to document your progress. Using a custom leaderboard like Beat Leader makes it easy to see your progress over time. With web replays, you're able to see your own replays without even having to open the game. Unfortunately, I can't fully speak for Score Saber, which is the alternative to Beat Leader, since I've never used it. But from what I've heard, it's basically just Beat Leader with more ranked maps, more players, and a very different ranking system. There aren't any web replays, however. You can use both, but on Quest Native you need to be on 1.28 for it to work, as of writing this script. Segment 6. Maps to play. In order to improve, you should play as many maps as you can. The more variety, the better. Playing maps with a lot of differences is one of the fastest and probably most reliable ways to improve. Secondly, you can also play a lot of maps of skill sets you are particularly lacking in to help improve your overall skill. Even if you prefer a particular skill set, branching out to others can improve your shortcomings in your main skill set. For example, tech may improve your reading and speed may improve your stamina and, well, speed. Lastly, try not to play too many maps outside of your skill range. It can be particularly demotivating when you are able to pass 7 or even 8 stars with ease, but you can't even pass 9 stars. Playing harder maps is a good way of improving, but you shouldn't be trying to beat 9 stars if you're barely passing them with like a 70% ACK. Move on to a lower diff and aim for about 90% ACKs on the maps you play, even if it means dropping a few star ratings. You may also be rewarded more performance points for doing so. Segment 7. Practicing. When trying harder maps, there will be a few main issues you come across. I'll discuss pattern recognition and jumps. In order to learn patterns, you can use the practice mode button shown to the left of the play button on a map. Find the part you have trouble with and play it at a slower speed, slowly increasing it until you learn the pattern. Rinse and repeat for the entire chart. To help with practicing jumps, you can use a mod called JE Fixer. This mod allows you to adjust your note jump speed, allowing for jumps to become easier. In order to enable this, tap on the box that says Override NJS and set it to something lower than the base NJS of the chart, slowly increasing it like we did with the speed, maybe going even a little bit over for practice, until you're comfortable with the jumps. Segment 8. Strategies to avoid plateaus. My biggest personal cause for plateaus has been due to practicing the same skill set for too long. Targeted practice is great, but doing it too often can cause burnout, mind blocking, and plateaus. So try to switch it up when you feel like you aren't improving. Maybe try tech if you're a speed player and are worse at tech, for example. Secondly, I think you should question if you are even plateauing. As humans, we usually focus on the bad more than the good, unknowingly ignoring all the stuff we've achieved. Check back to some of your earlier replays and compare them to now. Are you noticeably better? Then maybe you're improving and you just expect too much from yourself. Or you've been spending too much time focusing on the bad. Thirdly, don't play for FCs or perfection. Playing for FCs can be quite destructive. Typically you play for an FC because you feel that's what you can achieve. But the more and more you fail to achieve that, the more and more you will despise your time on this game. Ensure that if you're playing for FC, that you're playing exclusively for fun and not because you expect more from yourself. Also, try disabling your HUD to prevent it from distracting you. Lastly, take breaks. A break can be 5 minutes away from your headset, maybe drinking water, or simply playing easier maps like AC maps. Anything to help you relax. Taking breaks in the middle of a song isn't as good of an idea. Sometimes being tense helps, and when you pause in the middle of a map, you may lose that sense of rhythm and speed, which could cause you to poorly read the timings of the notes. Segment 9. Saber Settings. Part 3. Adjusting for upwards and downwards bias. Swing angle matters a lot in Beat Saber. You need to ensure you consistently swing a full 100 degrees before and after each swing, else you will be sacrificing score. Sometimes players on average point their sabers more up or down than they should, which causes them to underswing some notes and overswing notes going in the opposite direction. Adjusting for this isn't entirely necessary this early on, but it can help you a lot to get used to it early on. For this step, you will need the replay mod and Beat Leader or Score Saber if you're on Quest Native. If you're on PC, you will just need Beat Leader or Score Saber. Go ahead and play your map of choice. After you've completed your score, go back and watch the replay. Check to see if on average your sabers point more upwards or downwards than average. Ideally, you want the swing equally up and down, 100 up and 100 down. Depending on if you have upwards or downwards bias, you will have to adjust your settings differently. Angle your saber more down if you have an upwards bias, and more up if it's the opposite. This step takes a lot of patience but can pay off in the long run. Thanks for watching. Please let me know if there are any other tips I could have added, and if there's any top players watching, let me know how close I was in some of my segments. Goodbye!